Welcome back, students. This is Coach Jackson Gallup at North Star Mixed Martial Arts, part of our Striking 101 curriculum. We're going to be talking about modules 3 and 4. Teeps and knees is module 3. Teep defense is module 4. So we generally pair those, the offense and defense together. In our last video, we were discussing essentially the power punches, hooks and uppercuts, and we discussed the concepts of power movement 1 and power movement 2. And so you're going to use those first two power movements for your rotational strikes, your uppercuts, your hooks, as well as your body kicks. But our teeps and knees operate on power movement 3. Power movement 3 is rotation on different axes. So again, it's shoulders back, hips forward. And I'm pulling my spine back like a lever. So we have our lead teep. We're going to start with our teeps, our lead teep and our rear teep. I have a need to always anchor my stable leg, like my base leg. So if I'm throwing my lead teep, I want to make sure I anchor my base leg, hinge at the hips, pull the shoulders back, and fire the teep out. One more time. Always returning back to my stance. The rear teep, very similarly, anchor, hinge, and return. With this one, we want to make sure we're not falling forward or getting out of position. So referring back to those 3 pillars of stance, pillar number 3 is responsibility. That's just the ability to get back to your stance so that you can respond to whatever comes next, right? So if I lunge forward and I get myself totally out of position, something bad's going to happen. I may not be able to address it in the way that I would like. So again, lead teep, rear teep. You'll notice you have the option of throwing your same side arm for momentum. It's a way that we can help generate momentum also on the return. So I swing, swing, and return. Swing, swing, and return. Our teeps are going to be used for a lot of different reasons, but as a beginner, I would encourage you to use your teeps right now just to make contact. My experience as a professional fighter is that the teep is one of the hardest techniques to really learn how to use properly. We often think that all of our offensive techniques require a ton of power and force. Unfortunately, if we start throwing a ton of power and force into everything that we do, it's going to be very easy to get thrown off balance, to get countered, and so on. So our teep is kind of like a probe. It's kind of like a rangefinder. I can use it to injure. I can use it to interrupt. I can use it to manage distance. Those are 3 different ways that I can use it. 2 of them don't require a lot of power at all, okay? Now, our knee, our straight knee, Kao Tang, it means spear knee. I want you to think about stabbing with your knee. It's very similar to our teep, and that's why we put them together. Just like a rear hook and a rear elbow are essentially the same technique, just striking with different points of the arm. The teep and the spear knee are essentially the same technique, just striking with different points of the leg. For my rear knee, again, we anchor, hinge, pull the lever, and return. And for my lead knee, right, I generally am going to have to switch here and return to my stance. In this instance, it's okay to return to your main stance, and it's also okay to return to where the leg was chambered before you threw the knee. It's really going to be up to you. This leg is going to draw back, generally if I'm going to be following up with another leg attack. So we have teep on the lead side, teep on the rear side, and then Kao Tang on both sides. Generally speaking, as a point of sort of strategy, that lead teep is going to be more like your jab. So that one's going to be a little bit faster, a little bit more readily available. And your rear teep is going to have a little bit more power. So you're going to learn how to use those accordingly. When we come back, we're going to show you how to hold the pads for the teeps, and then we're going to get into some teep defense. All right, guys, welcome back. We're going to get into holding the pads for the teeps and the knees is very simple. And then at the very end, the next thing we're going to show you is the defense of the teep, or some of the defense. We can't get into all of everything in Muay Thai. This is striking 101, as you know. Not graduate level striking, but this is the basic stuff, okay? So this is called a belly pad. Anytime we can use a belly pad, we should be using it because it really frees up the arms to be more creative with our combinations. Typically when I'm throwing a teep, I'm just going to aim right for the center of the belly pad, and depending on how hard I want to land that teep, it's going to dictate like how far he gets pushed back. So keep in mind that if I teep my partner really, really, really far away, whether I'm hitting pads or sparring, I'm not going to be able to follow up with something else. So our teep is often a setup. It's not really like the ends, it's the means to an end. So with that teep, we just make contact. And again, notice how Sam's going to stagger his feet so that if I put a little bit of heat on it, he's just going to rock back over his rear foot. So I put a little heat on it, he rocks back, but he doesn't get blasted all the way around. I can throw my rear teep or my lead teep. Really simple. And again, as we're hitting pads, let's say the pads are up and we're moving around a little bit, right, you can kind of call it like some combinations. 1, 2, boom, boom. And anytime I see that belly pad, I don't need a cue to teep it. And the reason that we don't cue our partners up as pad holders for the teep is because I need to learn as an athlete, as somebody hitting the pads, when I'm in range and when I'm balanced enough to land that teep, because I need to be able to do it at a moment's notice, okay? So I don't want to get cued up. I don't want to be told when to teep. We're just moving around, and if I see it, I take it, okay? Teeping on the belly pad. Now with the knee, it's going to be a little bit different. My partner's going to cue me up for the knee by bringing one tie pad on top of the belly pad. The purpose of this tie pad is not to receive the knee, it's more damage control. So if I throw a knee at the wrong angle and it slides up off the belly pad, that can cause problems, especially if I'm going hard. So this is just to make sure that that he catches my knee if it goes off course. My target is always this belly pad, and the trajectory of that teep is very similar to like a cross to the body, that knee. So when I throw my rear knee, it's not at an upward angle, it's going to go right through. I aim my knee with my anchor step, right? So I step, boom, and bring it back. One more time. If I throw a switch knee, pretty self-explanatory here. One thing that Sam didn't do that a lot of beginners do is shrink away. So we got to really make sure that when we're holding pads for our partner and we're going to receive that knee, we hunker down, we're really strong, and we give a nice, stable target. As a hitter, if you see your pad holder start to shrink away when you throw that knee, like go ahead and shrink away, like that's a sort of an unspoken way of my partner telling me that I'm kneeing a little bit too hard. So we always got to meet in the middle somewhere, and I can't beat this guy up too much, even though he's wearing pads. So we always got to meet in the middle. Pad holders, communicate with your hitters, let them know if they're going too hard or too light. But hitters, be aware of the environment and start to read the environment. Now, if we don't have a belly pad for some reason, we're going to use the lock and load method. So forearm over forearm, right? You're going to see that one tie pad notches onto the other. When the top tie pad is perpendicular to the floor, and again, the belly pad's in the way right now, so the tie pads are a little high. When this is perpendicular to the floor, that's a cue for a teep. When it's angled down a little bit, that's a cue for a knee. My target right now is the seam between the tie pads. So it's very important that the pad holder locks and loads those pads up nice and tight, so the point of my knee doesn't spear through the tie pads. So again, one more time, teep, perpendicular, knee, slight angle, and we're back. All right, team, welcome back. Last part of module 3 and 4, which is teep, knees, and teep defense, is going to be teep defense. You're not really going to use this too much at the beginning of sparring, simply because a lot of people you're going to be working with are not going to have a really educated teep, but at higher levels, that teep is a pain in the butt to deal with. And the sooner you start developing good teep defense, the better you're going to be, better off you're going to be when you really start getting into some of that higher level sparring. So that teep is a real pain in the butt. It's one of the highest scoring techniques in Muay Thai, simply because it can interrupt and really throw the other person off balance in a very spectacular way. So we have 3 main ways to defend the teep. almost all of them are going to involve getting the teep off the center line in one way or another. Okay, so because it's a linear attack, if he throws that teep, he lands on my body, I cannot strike him at the end of his foot. His leg is going to be too long unless there's some major discrepancy in height. So when that teep comes in, I have to find a way to get it off to the side somehow. That's going to give me access to the body, the legs, the head, or whatever, and allow me to close the distance. The first defense we're going to discuss is the trap. You'll hear this called a catch as well. I'd like to use the terminology of trap, simply because when we talk about catching, people try to catch it out of midair, which is the last thing you want to do. If he fakes his teep and I catch, yeah, I'm gonna deserve whatever happens, okay? So when that teep comes in, I trap it on my body. Now, whichever hand you grab it with, you can grab with one or both, doesn't really matter, but I always want to transfer it to the same side, meaning if this is a right teep, I want to get the heel in my right hand. This allows me to clear an angle, cover some distance, and attack. If there's that same teep, and I bring it to the outside, it's not the end of the world, but I'm not creating an angle, and now he has an opportunity to continue and follow up with strikes, okay? So that teep comes in, trap, clear, boom. Okay. Option 2 is going to be a parry. Same idea, but rather than grab the teep comes in, parry it off to the side, and we're going to follow up with whatever. Option 3, this is going to be a little bit more advanced, is a deflection. Just like if you were to throw a ball at a concrete wall at a 45-degree angle, it's not going to bounce back towards you, it's going to deflect off. So I don't want to be squared up when this teep comes in, right? I receive all the force. So when that teep comes in, I guide it off to the side. That one takes a little bit more practice. I find that the trapping defense is one of the best ones, simply because it's very versatile. It's not dependent on which hand gets there first, and it sets you up for all of your best teep defense opportunities. Okay, so one more time, that trap, teep comes in, boom, I trap it on my body, and then I clear it. Right? I can also lift and plow, pretty much whatever I need to do. Be careful, again, last note here on teep defense. Just like on punch defense or any other kind of defense, we don't leave our guard too much to defend. So if I start to see that teep coming, I don't want to change my position too much. Trap it. Coach Jackson, Sam, we'll see you next time.